waiting for it to start.
No problem.
Emil Cadillac here with a special guest today on the University. We have John Laub, who's a scholar, who's going to give us some excellent tips on DFS strategies specific for tight ends. John, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Emil, and I wanted to come on and talk about tight ends because I think in DFS lineups, it is one of the overlooked positions. I think it is one of 8 positions, and people kind of take it maybe as a last decision based upon their salary. I kind of do it counterintuitive. I begin the build at the tight end position. I want to know how much money, salary cap wise, I have to spend at the other positions. I don't want to be pigeonholed into, you have to spend less than $3,400. So I begin the tight end because it's a one-player position, unlike the running back or wide receiver. I guess you can put them in your flex, which some people do, so you can go 2 tight ends. However, it's definitely, you have to choose one. And what I like about it is I think there's a lot of opportunity here to gain an advantage on your competitions. I'm a cash game player, my friend. And in order to do so, you have to make 8 astute decisions each week. You might be able to overcome one bummer, right? A guy scores 3 points, and you still might be able to cash. Once you get into 2, and I think when you get into 3 bummers, you're out of the cash game. So to me, the tight end, we want to begin my build, and this doesn't mean for everyone, but I begin at the tight end position. And then I work to the other positions. Because if I can find that gem, then I can build around that player.
That sounds fantastic. Are you ready to go to slide 1?
I am, my friend.
Bing bong, there it is.
So the first thing I want to tell, if you're new to DFS, or even if you've been playing for a while, there are tight ends that I target based on the statistics, based on the matchups. And for anyone on the graph, there are 5 categories that I'm looking for. Now, you're not going to most likely find any one player who fulfills all 5 of those criteria. Or if you do, it's a Travis Kelce and a George Kittle type scenario. But I'm looking to save money. So what I'm looking for, the first thing I always look at is the opponent rankings versus defensive units and how they play against the tight end. Last year, Arizona was abysmal against the tight end. Now, ironically, Arizona might be fixing that with the draft pick of Isaiah Simmons in the draft. I think he can cover the tight end, and I'm sure the Cardinals are working on that huge disaster this year. But last year, it was the Cardinals I picked on often. Vegas odds. I want a game with a lot of points scored. Now, for other positions, I like higher. Before the tight end, if I have an over-under of 44 points, I feel pretty good that there should be enough touchdowns in that game that I have an opportunity for my tight end to reach the end zone. Obviously, we're looking at snaps and targets over the last 3 games. On footballdiehards.com, we have an amazing tool. You can look at the snaps and targets for all the players. Is this player that I'm putting into my lineup, is he on the field enough? Is he getting enough targets in the passing game? I love the home underdog game script, Emil. I want a home underdog because usually what that's going to tell me is that the home team is going to be playing from behind in the 4th quarter. What does that do? It gives you opportunities in the passing game for targets to your tight end. So I want to have opportunity, and that comes in a negative game script for the home team. And then the last thing I look at, every week I do my own personal rankings. If I have a tight end in the top 10, but his salary is like 23rd on DraftKings. To me, that is a bright, shining star that I should invest in that player, Emil. So if you use this for the framework, it'll help you identify who should I put into my tight end position.
Well, those are some excellent points. I love those. You ready for slide 2?
I am, my friend.
There you go.
So what I wanted to do, Emil, when I started this project, this really was a 3-year project. I've been playing DFS for 6 years, but I began publishing my sheet of knowledge 3 years ago. I am never comfortable advising someone until I believe I have mastered the game. So I played for 3 years just myself, and then 3 years ago I started putting up sheets of knowledge on footballdiehards.com. What I've done over the last 3 years, I have tracked every Summa and Magna Cum Laude lineup, and each week there has been a tight end in those positions. So I kept all of that data. Emil, it is 102 lineups. So I had 102 tight end decisions to make. Now, sometimes I use the tight end twice. When it was just so optimal, salary-wise and matchup, I would use a tight end in both lineups. So let's say I chose something like 98, 97 different tight ends in those weekly lineups. What I did is I wanted to break it down. How do I find value? I did scoring average versus price value, and PV means how much of a return on investment. What I mean by that for listeners, for every $1,000 that I spend in salary, I would like to get 3 points scored by the player. Keep it simple. If I spend $3,000, I'm hoping to earn 9 points. That's a PB ratio of 3. What I did then is I broke down all 102 decisions. And if you look at that chart right there, you will see the 6 categories. I broke them up into categories of 500. So each category, you see 4,500 to 4,900. What I did is I averaged how many points scored those players totaled, and then I figured out the price value. What you notice on this graph, when you pay up for the tight end, you do score more points in general. Look at that, Emil. When you pay over 5,000, and we're talking players like Zach Ertz, Travis Kelce, George Kittle, the elite, your average point score are 22.8. But your PV is 3.93. I almost hit 4 times my salary. But I want you to look at other numbers than just that. Because remember, if you spend on the tight end, Emil, you can't pay for maybe 2 elite running backs or 2 stud receivers. So you have to make decisions on your salary cap. If you look at the price range of $3,500 to $3,900, I averaged $3,661 spent. I earned 12.3 points on average, but I got a really nice PV ratio of 3.35. And that chart there that you're looking at, everyone, the blue line is your average point score, and you clearly see it is a linear progression. The more I spend on the position, the more points I get out of that on average. But one of the keys is average points scored is not the only parameter. You have to look at price value ratio. You do see at the higher range, I have a better price value ratio, but you will also notice at the lower ranges, on 3 of those 4, I exceeded 3.0. The only time I did not is in that 3,000 to 3,400 range when I had 2.99. So I came close. So everyone needs to make a decision understanding how many points am I looking for? What's the projected points, and can I exceed my 3.0 price value ratio?
Interesting. So, yeah, that's pretty good data. Actually, your second one, 4,500 to 4,900, you have a PV of 3.54. That's pretty good,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, absolutely, my friend. Now, you don't have that high ceiling in general because if you look at the average points, but I do love that 3.54 return. So if you can get a player at 4,600, you can still earn a very nice point scored and have a very high P to PV ratio.
Yeah, that's not bad at all. I like that. Excellent. Are you ready for slide
Yes,
number
my friend.
3? Here we go. There you are, if I hit the right button.
You did, my friend. So just to give everyone an example, I'm willing to embrace risk. And if you look at the article that I wrote on footballdiehards.com, you're going to see in the lower price end, obviously you have more variance. You are more likely to score between 0 and 5 points at the bottom range than you are at the top range. However, in the 3 years, I identified 4 grand slams that I was able to hit on, and I call them 1 week wonders because these were not players I've owned a lot of. But when I put them up to those criteria that we did in slide 1, Emil, these players stood out to me. I put them in the lineups, and the PV return to salary was outrageously great. Ryan Griffin of the Jets against the Washington Football Club last year scored 24.9 points on 5 receptions, 109 yards, and a touchdown. Caden Smith of the Giants last year against that same Washington Football Club scored 21.5 points. He only cost $3,200. So you're able to allocate money at so many other positions by spending down. Now, there's a nice one in the middle. Chris Herndon. I paid up the 4,600, which we were just discussing, right, Emil? But I got a really nice PV. I scored 20.2 points and a very nice PV. You're looking at about 4 to 4.5. And then my favorite one of all time, 2 years ago, Antonio Gates of the Chargers, late in his career against the Jets. He toasted him that day. He was bare minimum salary, scored 20.1. So I do embrace the risk at times of the bottom level, and you can hit a grand slam. Now, I can also show you times, unfortunately, when you get some zeros. So I should be honest, Ricky Seals-Jones 1 week killed me. Mark Andrews, his rookie year, 1 week killed me with 0. So it depends on how much risk you're willing to embrace. And I tend to, in my cash games, embrace that risk. And you can see the home run upside.
And that's fantastic. Are you ready for slide 4?
I am, my good friend.
That is slide 4.
So what I wanted to do for all of our viewers, once again, I wanted to dig a little bit deeper into the numbers. And, you know, I'm a teacher. I'm a numbers nerd. I'm fascinated by data. So I said, let me look at high, median, and low. How do my decisions, how did they pan out in salary range? And then how do they compare against each other? What I've done on that chart, you have the red line is the high score in that salary range in the last 3 years. What's pretty amazing about that, Emil? There's not a lot of difference as far as points scored, but you have to understand your odds of scoring in the under 34 price range are much less than scoring in the upper echelon price range. But you do see there, you can score over 25 points no matter what the price range is with the right matchup. And then what to me was important, what is the median? And now we see there's more variance there, right, my friend? Mm-hmm. Look at that. When you pay up, the median is 23.7. So you have a really nice high. You have a good median. But when you get down to the lower price range, that's where your variance comes in. Look at that 30,000 to 3,400 price range. We have a high of 27.8, but we have a median of 9.6. And there's your variance. In that same price range, we have a low of 1.7. In the higher range, you don't have as much variance. Now, I did one time, hey, if you play DFS, your fantasy football, you do rankings, you're going to whiff once in a while. So in the high range, once I had a low of 6.8. But the median and the high is much better. So this, to me, you have to understand how you want to construct your lineup. Looking at this data, one of the things that I've come to the conclusion, if you are in a cash game, I prefer to live under $3,900. Not a perfect scenario always, and I would pay up at the flex position for my tight end. Essentially, in the perfect matchup, Travis Kelce is no different than Julio Jones. So make Travis Kelce your flex position tight end and pay down still for another tight end. Because we essentially know that the ceiling of Kelce, Kittle, and Ertz, they're the same ceiling as DeAndre Hopkins and Julio Jones most of the time, right? You can get there. So if you really love one of these high-end tight ends given week in a cash game, put him in the flex, and you still save money at the tight end position. Now, I would say in GPP games, and I can't afford GPP, but I study it, I look at the data. I would pay up for the tight end. I don't want as much variance, and I want to differentiate from my competitors. If you really want to be unique, and we know if you're trying to do GPP, you need to be a little bit different than the crowd. You could even pay up for two tight ends, put one in the flex and one in the tight end. So you could theoretically go Mark Andrews and Travis Kelce in a GPP lineup for your variance at the position.
Sorry, had to get rid of the 5-pound barking dog.
I understand.
I got a Morkie. The thing is literally puny, but it can bark. No, those are excellent points. I've never thought much about starting your best tight end at flex. I think it's a fantastic idea. I can't wait to play on week 1 and give that a shot.
Yeah, it's a fascinating strategy, and you're really differentiating yourself, I think, from the masses, right? Especially if you have the quarterback tight end. Everyone's talking about the correlation with quarterback wide receivers. But what if you go a quarterback tight end flex correlation and then really try something different?
That's fantastic. I love that. All right, you ready for slide 5?
Absolutely.
There you are.
So everyone, this year on footballdiehards.com, my DraftKings sheet of knowledge is going to be up again. It will be up on Saturday morning, the week before week 1. The sheet of knowledge applies to Sunday contests only because I like to play. We have families, we have all this. I play on Sundays. It's my day to relax. So I've already been looking. These are not finalized, But based on my method, these are some of the tight ends I'm looking for in week 1. Now, I'll have my final decision about 3 weeks from now. But if you're starting to look, you're fascinated, you want to apply what you've learned today to lineup building at the tight end position, here are 3 players that I recommend. 1, Jack Doyle versus the Jaguars. The Jaguars are falling apart on defense. I don't know who they're even going to have defensively that opening week. Eric Ebron is no longer on the Colts. And we have Phillip Rivers, and we know historically Phillip Rivers has completed a ton of passes to the tight ends. So I like this spot for Jack Doyle. I like the over-under. It's 45.5. I have him in my top 10 right now, week 1 matchup. And he's much further down the chart in price range. So there's an option for you. You want to go a little bit further down. A lot of discussion about Ian Thomas. I really like this young man when I scouted him coming out of Indiana. Superior athlete. Not a lot of production for the Hoosiers in college. He is at a very nice price range here. And here's what I love about this one. Over under 46 points. The Panthers are a home underdog. I love home underdogs. So I got 2 of my 3 criteria right away. The Panthers should be playing from behind in the 4th quarter. Look at the depth chart, folks. The Panthers don't have much at tight end. Ian Thomas should at least be on the field for 75% of the snaps. Now, there's always speculation week 1. It does hurt that we don't get as many preseason games. But if there is one tight end who's likely to gain the majority of the snaps for the Panthers, it is Ian Thomas. What I also like, the Raiders surrendered over 12 points per game to opposing tight ends last year, and the tight ends had 778 yards receiving and 7 touchdowns. So I like this spot for Ian Thomas. And finally, if you really want to go to the bottom, I love Irv Smith, man. Other than Adam Thielen, who are the Vikings going to throw the ball to? I believe that Irv Smith is being overlooked tremendously. He should be on the target or on the field in passing downs. Kyle Rudolph is near the end. Now, he's still a great blocker, and he has a role on the Vikings. But losing Stephon Diggs, I believe that Irv Smith has an opportunity here to get about 8 targets in the opening week against the Packers. I also like the over-under is 46 here. So I like Irv Smith for a sneaky play if you're looking to save on price, Emil.
Oh, I love these things. And also with the Colts, they've got one of the top offensive lines, which is exactly what Phillip Rivers needs. You give Phillip Rivers time, and he may rebound quite well in 2020.
Yeah, and they don't have to have Jack Doyle block, my friend. They can run him on routes a lot because the line is solid.
Boy, excellent point. I love this. This is fantastic. Well, I had one other question. We can flop back over just to you and I on the thing if the watchers can handle. I like playing cash 50% or 50-50.
Yep, that's why I play cash 50-50.
Yeah, just the chance of me being number 1 out of 20 people who are suspected being the top 9, I just feel better about it. And I was curious that you do that also.
Yeah, I do. I dabbled in the beginning for GPP, 4 or 5 years ago. But, it was so hard. And when, I love fantasy football. Angelo, you and I have been friends for like 30 years now. We just love this game, right? Uh-huh. And I want to enjoy it, but I want to finish in the black. I'm not looking to get rich, but I know if I do my homework, I put together a good lineup, I finish in the black every year. I'm not getting rich, but I don't want to spend my family money. And I believe the best way is the cash games, in my opinion, to do that. And look, you're going to lose sometimes. But, you know, kind of looking at the data. With DraftKings, they take their VIG. You know, only I think it's like if you play 122, like 55 people win or 50 win. So you need to finish in like the top 45%. If you do that 60% to 65%, which is good, that's a good number. You're going to finish in the black at the end of the year. And that's kind of how I look at it. I look at it as 17 weeks. How am I going to win at the end of 17 weeks? I'm going to have a bad week. I know that. But you just have to bounce back, go back to your homework, go back to your research, and no one can be perfect on every selection they make. But over 17 weeks, I can grind out and be successful at cash games.
So I played the 10 to 20 team 50%. Is that not wise, the smaller numbers?
I like, in general, I will be honest, I like the bigger numbers because you don't know who the competition is. So I know, and we know, I actually am doing it all by hand. I just love this game. I mean, this is my hobby, right? I like grinding my lines. So we know there's algorithms, there's computer programs, and there's people multi-entering, right? I don't want to be with 9 guys. What if 8 of them are algorithm oriented and they're just plugging into every cash game they could find? I find when you're in the upper end of cash games, over 122, the variance and your ability to finish in the upper half tends to work itself out better over the long haul. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's fantastic because I've never thought of that. I thought the opposite. I didn't think much about it. So that does make a lot of sense.
The little ones get gobbled up. The little ones, like the 10-man, they tend to get gobbled up by the big fish. Now, I'll be honest, Emil, what you should do if that's what you want. The big ones, they close down quickly. So what I do is I wake up on Sunday morning. I enter a lineup early so I have my place and then make changes throughout the morning. Because if you wait, now I'm on East Coast. So if you wait by like 10 o'clock to enter, those big ones are closed, my friend.
Wow.
All that's left are the smaller ones.
Oh, you're teaching me a lot today.
So I think what's happening is who's entering at the last second. In general, you don't have just some dude just wakes up at 11, decides to throw $10 in a DFS cash game. I mean, I don't think that happens. Who's entering there? It's the sharks with the last minute news. My dog just came in.
Yeah,
with the last minute news, right? And they're gobbling up the 20-man, the 10-man games. So I stay away from those.
What about the lowest price, like the $1 or $2 things?
So I have a $50 budget every week. I don't go over that budget. So I have played at times a $10, once in a while 25. If there's like a big 5,000 25 cash game and I love my lineup, I'll do that. But in general, I survive in the $3 to $10 range. That's the ones I generally.
You'll laugh at me when I start out. I'm playing $4, so I'm playing like 4 wonders or 2 twos. So do you think the big shots are in those?
You see, so can I give you empirical data? No. From what I hear, listen, and read, yes.
Wow.
But does that and then here's what else you can do. This is just my anecdotal research. You know, when you go in and says who's playing, they have a level of competitor.
Oh, okay.
And you can go in and you'll notice on those 10 there'll be a lot of big, like it's almost like a generals, you know, in the military they have those badges. And you'll see guys, players or girls, but players who have a huge badge, which means they've entered thousands of dollars in contests over the years.
Wow. Wow.
So
okay.
I try to stay away.
Interesting. Great. This has been great. I can't wait to play. I got to re-listen to this and make sure I caught everything.
Yeah, I mean, hey, look at Football Diehards. I get almost 90% of my information. We have so much good stuff on there, and I have the sheet of knowledge for our readers. We have Justin Lanero, Ben, and Bob doing his article every week. We have Gary's Davenport's article, even though it's not specifically DFS, it's a matchup article, right? So that helps. We have so much good stuff.
That's fantastic. Well, thank you so much. And looking forward to the season and your articles. What do we have? About 21 days left before the season, maybe a little bit more.
Yeah,
crazy.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, and we'll get this up on the university.
Excellent, my friend.